Okay, this is 7.4 College Algebra, and this is 7.4C. And what we're going to do in this lesson is basically we're finally getting to kind of the meat of the whole matrix thing on when am I ever going to use this kind of an answer. All right, so that's the plan here. Now that you know how to do matrices and you kind of get a feel for that, let's get into solving some systems of equations here. So I'm going to shut this off and put a system on here. Okay, so there is my system of equations here. Notice you've got to keep your x's, your y's, and your z's lined up. So in the second one, I don't have any y's. I just have a z, but I still put it clear over here under there. Okay, so let's go ahead and write this as a matrix equation. Oops, I'm sorry, this should be a negative. That's what happens when you copy out of the book wrong. Okay, and then we're going to make another one here with our answers. Okay, now you're going to be skipping this step later, but I wanted to put it in here just so you could kind of get an idea of what we're doing here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the letters completely in our first matrix. So we're going to put -2, 1, 4, 1, 0, -2, 2, -1, -3. Then we're going to make another matrix with our x, y, z, and repeat our matrix here. Okay, so there we go. It doesn't look too painful at this point, and like I said, you can skip this step right here because you can look at the system of equation here and just go ahead and write that from here. You can come up with this blue here without any problem. So we'll be avoiding doing those extra steps here. All right, so what do you do with that? Okay, and that's the nice thing about this is there are methods in order to solve this system that make life a little bit easier. So this right here is called the coefficient matrix A. Okay, so we'll call that the coefficient matrix A. The matrix containing the variables. Okay, we're going to call that X, and we're going to call this here C. Okay, so we're going to write this as AX equals C. All right, if A to the -1, if that exists, and we multiply both sides of our equation by A to the -1, it will look like this. And because the identity, or the inverse times A, the inverse of A times A equals the identity matrix, we now get this. And because we have the identity matrix I times X equals A to the -1, okay, C, that actually equals X equals the inverse of A times C. Okay, so what does that mean? The inverse of A times C. Well, the inverse of A means that we take our original problem up here, which is right here. We multiply it we find the inverse, we multiply it by C, which is this column here, and that will give us our X, Y, and Z answers. So that's what we're going to do here. So that was just kind of the proof of coming up with this equation right here, okay, that we're going to use in order to solve these things. So let's go ahead and do the equation that we had just written down and see what it looks like. Let me shut this off while I write the equation down. Okay, so there's the equation. We're going to go ahead and skip that one step that I said we would. So we get negative 2, 1, 4, 1, 0, negative 2, 2, negative 1, negative 3. Get the second one with X, Y, Z, and that equals our third one. Okay, so pretty simple there. I wish it was all that kind of nice and easy there. So let's label this. This is our A, this is our X, and that's our C. Okay, so that being the case, let's go ahead and solve what we've got here. Now remember, X equals the inverse of A times C. Keep that in mind, because I'm going to erase these here so you know that all we're going to do is take the inverse of this and multiply it by that. That's what it says here. And that will give us our X, our Y, and our Z. Okay? Because this X here does not mean the letter X. It means this matrix. X with just the variables X, Y, and Z. So the inverse of A, which is this matrix here, times C, this one here, equals X, Y, and Z. So let's give this a shot. Now just for shortcut purposes, if you remember or if you look back in example 3, we found that A, the inverse of A, equals, and we did all the work for this, so no sense in redoing it all. Okay, so there's that matrix. That's the hard part. Now we multiply it by C. Okay? So let's actually multiply this. This is a 3 by 3, and this is a 1, or I'm sorry, this is a 3 by 1. So because these numbers are the same, it's doable, and my answer is going to be a 3 by 1. So let's go ahead and do 3 rows, 1 column. Alright, so let's look at the first number. First row, first column. Or I guess I should say the only column, right? Alright, so 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 times 4 is 4. Alright, so do this in blue. Second row, only column. 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 2 is 4. 0 times 4 is 0. And finally, third row, only column. Gives me 2 times 5 is 10. 0 times 2 is 0. 1 times 4 is 4. And then when we end up with our matrix that has 1 column, 3 rows, 16, 5 plus 4 is 9, 10 plus 4 is 14. So what does that give me? Well, it gives me an X of 16 a y of 9, and a z of 14. Okay, so I didn't have to do any matrixy stuff really, except to find the inverse here. But once I do that, the rest of it's really, really easy. Okay, so if we were to do the example 8, they give us the table. They help us to set up the equation, and the equation isn't really too terrible to set up once you get the once you get the table there. So we have 5x. I'm just going to show you again how to set this up, just in case there's any kind of confusion, or in case you just don't have anything else to do and you want to watch me do stuff over and over again. So 2x plus 3y plus 5z equals 56,000. And my last one is x plus y plus z equals 14,000. Okay, so in order to write this is a matrix equation. So in the form ax equals c, that's important. We'll do this as 5, 7, 12, 2, 3, 5, 1, 1, 1. That's my A. My X is X, Y, Z equals my C, which is 134,000, 56,000, and 14,000. Okay, so really the only thing you have to do in order to solve this is to find a to the minus 1, okay, which again is the matrix. And I'm just going to write this out. I'm not going to do it. Whoops. Augment 1 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 1. Okay, so again, all I'm doing is bringing this over here. I'm changing this to a 1, this to a 0. I'm basically making it this, and then these numbers are all going to go whipper-jawed there, and we'll be able to get our answer. So once we find our inverse, then all we do is multiply it. So let's say we found our inverse. I'm just going to write it A, or the inverse of A, rather than write it all out. And I multiply it by 134,000, 56,000, and 14,000, because this is going to give me my x, y, and z once I multiply those. And that is it for 7.4. So we did that in 3 videos, albeit long videos, probably 45 minutes-ish, but hopefully that will help you get started with your assignment there on 7.4.